how much of my paycheck should I save? And to me, in a perfect world, you'd be able to save and invest 20% off the top. For many of you that are younger, and I don't think I was quite doing 20% when I was in my 20s, but start off with what you can. If it's 10% or 5%, ideally we'll get to 20%. And then as you start to make more money, as things start to get better in your life, ideally you can get to 30%, 40%, even 50%. But even again, at the beginning, if you have to start with 25 or 50 or $100 a paycheck, you got to start doing it, because consistency over a long time is going to be a better way to win than if you just wait till you're 35 or 40 or 45. Again, go play with that investment calculator. You can see how starting young with smaller numbers is so much more beneficial than starting later with bigger numbers. So just know, as 20% is the number, but start with what you can. Question number 2, should I pay off my debt or should I invest first? To me, without knowing your personal financial situation, here's what I'll tell you for sure. If you have high interest debt, high interest credit cards, 20+%, 30%, or car loans at high interest, you got to pay those off first. Now, if you have some debts and they're low interest, like a mortgage, or maybe you somehow are on some sort of temporary low rate for a little while, you could do both. You could invest and you could save at the same time and paying off your debt. But just know, if you have high interest debt, I'd always say pay your debt off first, but ideally you could do both at the same time. Question number 3, do I really need a budget? And you absolutely do, but only at the beginning and not forever. And the reason why you do it is because you need to be able to see what you have coming in, what you have going out, and you'll spot the missing pieces or the leaks in your budget where you're spending money that you really shouldn't be spending money on. So it helps you build up good habits, and the more you can automate it, the better. So eventually you want all your bills paid automated. You want your income coming into your checking account and then have it split out between your payments and your investing. And the more you can do those things, the better. But you got to have a budget. You have to pay attention to it more closely at the beginning than you will long-term. But at least at the beginning, you got to be kind of anal retentive about it, at least for a couple of months. Question 4, how much should be in my emergency fund? And I don't necessarily like to call it an emergency fund. I just like to have some cash reserves built up. And at the beginning, especially again, if you're in high interest debt or other things, let's just build up $500, $1,000, $2,500 in that savings, high yield savings account. And then long-term, what we want is at least 3, potentially 6, 9, 12 months of reserves. And the more that you can build up, the better. Now, part of that depends on how high risk your income is. If you're someone who's like me, that every month I get paid different amounts, I never know when my income is coming in, I don't get a paycheck every other Friday, I like to have a little bit on the heavy side on reserves. So I like to have reserves for my personal life. I have to have reserves for my work life. But for those of you that have a real high, stable income and those kind of things, maybe you only need 3 months. It really just depends on what your comfort level is. So for those of you that, if that number's too high, great, but start off with minimum, try to get to at least 1,000 or 2,500 and start there. Question number 5, should I invest in crypto? This is what I get from the young people all the time. And here's the thing. If you're doing that 20% off the top, like we talked about, into your savings and investing, and you're living on the other 80%, and you want to then take 3, 5, 7, 10% of your income and invest it in crypto, by all means, go ahead, because you're doing the fundamental things first. But I think of crypto as more like gambling. I think of crypto as much more high risk. And because of that, you just have to be careful. So stick with the index funds, the 401ks, the Roth IRAs, buy a house. Crypto is like a little extra, on top. Like if you had a full meal, do the fundamentals out of the food. Crypto's that extra spice and things that you get on top. Question number 6, what's the best investment for beginners? And right off the bat, that's what we're talking about, these low-cost index funds. Don't pick individual stocks. Don't do the crypto thing. Just get your Roth IRA, your 401k, and just invest in like a S&P 500 index fund. Low cost, simple, easy. Focus on your time in the market, not trying to time the market. So just get paid every 2 weeks, have your money go in, have it go into those index funds. And then as you get older, we'll start to reallocate some of your investments. But for now, just start there. Question number 7, how do I stop living paycheck to paycheck? Well, step 1 is that damn budget you got to do, and you got to track every dollar, not forever. But this way you can cut the crap out of your budget. So get rid of certain subscriptions, get rid of eating out too much, Ubering in your car, going out to food or traveling or things that you just can't afford yet, or living in a situation that's just too expensive. 3, build a side income. Now, I'm not huge on the side income, but you can find some side jobs, or if you're not happy in your current career and you want to create a side hustle that someday might turn into your full-time career, great, let's do that. but I'm more about making your main hustle your main hustle. So talk to your boss, figure out in your business, how do I make more money doing what I'm also doing? And then you got to automate everything. So saving, investing, bill paying, all of it, the more you can automate it, the better. And again, you don't need a raise. Most of you, mostly just need a better plan. Because every time I talk to a young person, we sit down with their money and we do a budget. It's amazing how much money is just being pissed away. You just got to change that so that you're not wasting all this money. It's hard enough as it is if you're doing everything right. Question number 8, what is a Roth IRA and should I care? Well, the Roth IRA is an individual retirement account. There's lots of retirement accounts like 401ks and other things. The cool part about a Roth IRA is this. If you make $1, you pay your tax. Let's say you have 80 cents left over. From that 80 cents, if you put money into your Roth IRA, let's just say the max is $7,000 a year for a young person, then many, many years later, when you go to pull that money out of your account, it's going to grow tax-free. So you will be a tax-free millionaire. Hopefully you have millions and millions of dollars in your Roth IRA. And when you start to make those withdrawals, you won't have to pay tax on them. My daughter started this 2 years ago. She's amazed. She still, I don't think 100% believes me on what she thinks the numbers are going to be someday. But trust me, it will be one of the best things you ever did. Question number 9, how do I build good credit? And I don't worry about my credit so much anymore because as long as you're paying your bills, making your money, doing your investing and all those things right, your credit's naturally going to be high. But if you have credit like credit cards and you're not using balances, maxing out the cards, all those kind of things, what you're showing is if you can just be responsible and a good user of credit, your credit score will go up. And so, early on, if you're trying to get your credit built up so you can buy a house, or sometimes you even need a high credit score because jobs will look at those kind of things, get some access to some credit, use it wisely, use it smartly, and for whatever you do not pay your bills late, pay them on time, okay? Question number 10. As a realtor, this is one of the questions I get all the time. Is renting a waste of money? And I would never tell you renting is a waste of money. There are times in your life it makes sense. It gives you more freedom and flexibility to be able to move cities and change jobs and do certain things. But it is not a long-term wealth building strategy for most people. 80-90% of most people build up their wealth through real estate. And most people, because it's their biggest asset and it's a forced savings, and if you stay in a house a long time, the value of it is going to go up. Yes, in today's world, it is much more expensive to own than to rent in most major cities, or even where I live right now. But it is not a long-term wealth building, strategy to rent. So just try eventually to own something, especially once you're a dual income family versus one person. I know it's real hard right now, but there are some times where renting makes sense. Don't ever let anyone tell you it's a waste of time. Question 11, how do I start investing with a small amount? We call Fidelity, we call Charles Schwab, we call Vanguard, we call Robinhood, we call whoever we want to use to hold our brokerage account and just start. $5, $10, $25. I don't care how much it is. You got to start. You don't need a lot of money to start. And I promise you, go to the investment calculator. We'll put a link in the description below. Dave Ramsey's website, free tools, investment calculator, or retirement calculator. And you will see small amounts over a long period of time. You will crush it. You will win. I promise. Don't worry about starting with small amounts of money. Question number 12. How do I make more money without getting a second job? Again, I think talk to your boss, figure out what skills you need to improve. Maybe you're in an industry where it's just never going to make a lot of money. So you look at some other things you might like to do and try to be interested in, and you go do that on the side. But I'm a bigger fan of making your main hustle your main hustle. So try to figure out how you can make as much money in your main job. And on the side, you can figure out what either the next career is going to be or find some side hustles, whether it's, house sitting, dog walking. I'm in real estate, so a lot of times I can be able to get my kids some side jobs and some things where they can make some extra money. There's lots of ways to make some extra money, but I really do think you got to figure out how to make your main job the way you make your most of your money. Question 13, how much do I need to retire? Now, this is sort of a loaded question, and part of the retirement thing is what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? But the general rule that you hear people talk about all the time is the 25 times your annual expenses. So if you were someone whose annual expenses were $50,000 a year, well, $50,000 a year times 25 is $1.25 million invested. Well, $1.25 million invested sounds like a lot of money, but if you're 23 years old, like when my daughter started, now she's 24, and you start putting $7,000 a year in your IRA, which if you're making 60, 70, 80, if you're making $70,000 a year, it's only 10% of your income, you will be shocked how there'll be $5, $6 million with average returns over those 40 plus years, and you'll have more money than you knew what to do with in your retirement. So you can do it. But again, the general rule is 25 times your annual expenses. And for many people, It just depends because some people's annual expenses are going to be $250,000 versus $50,000 versus $500,000. So it just depends what life you want to live in your retirement. So figure out those numbers, play it in reverse, and put the plan in place. If you have questions, reach out. I'll explain to you better how to do it. Question number 14. Why do rich people seem to get richer? Because they use their money to buy time, own assets, and multiply their income. They save sort of, but they save to invest. You hear that word saving? Saving and investing kind of get put interchangeably together. And really what you're doing is you're pulling money off the top of your income to invest it. You only put a little cash reserves aside to save it. So whether you have it in a money market account, a high yield savings account, whatever it might be, to access some cash, that's great. But you don't want to just leave it sitting around. So they invest it. Just certain money should be a lot more conservative than others so that your money's growing. And you don't have to budget forever. They build systems in place where now maybe their overhead is literally 10 or 15% of their overall incomes, and their investments are paying way more than what they're spending. And then at that point, you don't have to worry about budgeting. Every once in a while, you can just say, screw it, I'm going to go do something, and it doesn't even matter anymore. And question number 15 that I get all the time is, what's the number one money habit that changed your life? And what I would say is this. When I was young, you couldn't do this, but in today's world, if you just automate everything. So you make your income, goes into your main checking account, and then everything from there gets transferred out into your bill pay, into your investment accounts, into your savings accounts, wherever your money needs to go, you auto pay your credit cards in full, and everything just starts to happen automatically. Anymore, I don't have to pay attention to that. My money comes in, it goes in, and we start transferring money all over the place. So when your money moves around without you having to think about it, that is how wealth is built quietly. And I'm talking about regular, everyday people wealth, not the kind of wealth that is hundreds of millions of dollars. That's a whole different level. We're talking to most regular, everyday people about how to get to the point where you can retire, how you can build up wealth. And I hate that word retire, so sorry about that. Where you can get financially free and go from there. So here's the final message for you, okay? You don't need to be a genius to win at this game. What you do need to do is stop ignoring your money, stop waiting for the perfect time, stop waiting to time the market. Just build the habits, start now, and get going. And whether you want to read books or whether you're watching podcasts, you got to start learning about this stuff. Just follow people like myself. We'll help you do this. And so whether you're broke, you're in debt, you're just starting out, whatever situation is, the sooner you can get this going, the better. And that way you can end this grind as soon as possible. So you don't have to figure it all out today. You just have to take the next step, do the next thing, and start building up these wins. That's how wealth is built over a long period of time. So hopefully these questions being answered is helpful to you. Let's reach out with me if you have questions, but by all means, send me a comment on what you're going to do first. How are you going to get started? And happy to answer any questions for you that will get you going on your journey so that someday you are in a situation financially that you feel good, you know what you're doing, and you too can win at this game.